Log 2, Team 3, May 5th, 0900 hours. Well, TAP finished her autopsies on the person designated as McCoy, and has come back with an indeterminate cause of death. It quite literally appears that he took a nap against the wall and just turned off. As to the one designated Sarah, there is heavy evidence of scorching and tool marks on the bones, the varieties and differences of which make cause of death almost impossible to determine. The odd thing is that Sarah did find is that not only does the leg appear to have been broken off at the hip, but there is a healing trepanning scar at the base of her skull, or at least there was at the time of her death. As to the doctors Jones and Bright, presumably they had the strangest findings of all. It would appear that somehow their bodies coalesced at nearly the same time. She did, however, find what I am labeling the marble within the heart of the second victim. According to TAP's findings, this object is actually redacted, and as such I'm going to quarantine it. It would appear that the second man was holding it to his chest when he somehow merged with the first man. It's unclear exactly how that began or what the process was that caused this to occur, but as the two bodies coalesced, it was forced within the chest of the second man. The coalition process was unaffected in the previous mentioned artifact I have dubbed the marble, but it is similar to the process that brought us here in the redacted room. Preacher being preacher was overridden by his curiosity, which beat out his fear. Although he blessed the building before entering it, I can't exactly say that I blame him, considering some of the missions Nard puts us on. He worked on it for almost an hour yesterday before TAP did the autopsy and found the marble. In that time he discovered that indeed the sphere was responsive. It would levitate just a few inches off the pedestal, and then it would come back to rest. Through deduction, he could not find a readily plausible reason for this. It did seem as though it did not matter if he touched the object first or not. In fact, it would levitate no matter how near or far he was. The intervals and height it would levitate also appeared random, with no correlation whatsoever to any of his actions. As to writing or data gleaned from this sphere, it seems that there is definitely more to this than meets the eye. However, once the marble was discovered, I could not get him in there at gunpoint if I wanted to, especially considering the last one we found on mission redacted when we were in redacted. I assume you people know what you're doing, but this mission sure seems like a very long extension of that one. Currently I have Preacher focusing on the bean and bullet count, as he won't go anywhere near that building anymore. It was far too extensive to do in one sweep the other day. As to the room, from this point forth I will simply designate it the sphere room. TAP said once she's done policing the BIBs, she'll investigate the sphere room. I told her after the BIBs are removed and taken outside the wire to catch some sack time, and then worry about the sphere room. She's off doing that now. She has Irish and Jax with her. Yesterday I had Irish and Jax go in extending circles to map out the place and look for any discrepancies. From here the buildings would appear to follow a ring pattern. The roads cross-sectioned with quarter circle intervals in between what we would think of as city blocks. We do not appear to be in the center of these concentric circles, however. If the map we have is to be believed, we've extrapolated that the center of the city is somewhere near our POA, although an overland route back seems very unlikely. At a mile to the south, there is an unusually decorated wall, approximately or at least 1,000 feet high at any rate. It's very difficult to determine, and the echo refuses to properly register it. As to the wall half a click to the west, it appears to have no entrance. There are intermittent buildings between us and where these two walls intersect. Iris, Jim, and Jax have not fully explored these buildings as per my request. We are far too short-handed to risk men that may be lost in traps. We're going to abandon the fob tomorrow and later today. Given how short-handed we are, I can only assume that it is the best way to go about it. It is not as if we need to hold this base. At this point, we have more or less 3 points targeted: southern wall, western wall, and north the ziggurat. As to the east, at about a click out, there's a far more distressing phenomenon. It would appear that the buildings in many portions of the city suffered some sort of cataclysm, possibly earthquakes or meteor strikes. There appears to be no remaining lava flow, so I think volcanoes can be ruled out. But the debris and detritus in the area is stacked and smashed in such haphazard patterns that climbing it would risk collapse and lead to injury or death. I hope I get a message from you on Redacted soon, as this BFN is a long way from support. Jax was unable to retrieve the logs. The protocol seems to have wiped them out. They are beyond his ability to retrieve. Jax and Iris patrolled the map and mapped the area as best as possible in the square kilometer around the fob. There are approximately 50 to 60 buildings people of our size can access, with a number of smaller buildings around similar to the ones designated doghouse in the previous log. We're going to go out today and in a grid search pattern identify any resources, wildlife, and now, even though it seems improbable, but any indigenous peoples. Also, we are going to look for Major Redacted. If his log is to be believed, Marcus and Blaskowski are KIA. As to Ramirez, according to his logs, his fate is indeterminate. For now, I choose to believe that Ramirez and the Major have gone Elvis. Over the course of the evening, I switched watch between the members of my squad. The only dream to report came from Tap, but I think it's one of those mundane kind of dreams. She had a dream in which she was back on her family's farm and was stuck in a culvert pipe after following a cab's cowbell. However, given our location and situation, I figure it's better to report it than not.